Now, why did they have to go and do that, huh? Like, I was totally planning on talking to you about something else, and then NAR has to settle, and we have to talk about this elephant that's in the room. So let's do it. The National Association of Realtors, or NAR, just decided to settle on a case where basically they were being accused of fixing commission rates at 6%. Now, I haven't seen a 6% commission structure. The norm is like 4 or 5. It's never been set in stone. Commissions have always been negotiable. And in fact, NAR made a promise years ago that they were going to make things very transparent. So not only on the MLS did the seller's agent need to list what the commission was that the buyer's agent was going to get, but it also had to be pushed out to Zillow and Redfin and Homes.com, those kind of things. So they've been trying to make it a very transparent thing that sometimes you're being offered 1%, sometimes it's 4%, and it's never been set in stone at 6%. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that sellers list their house at the fair market value. So if a home is worth $1 million and you are agreeing as a seller to pay your listing agent 3%, but nothing to the buyer's agent, most sellers are still going to list their house at that $1 million price, and they're just going to pocket that extra 3%. They're not going to list their home for 3% less. So some people think that housing prices are going to drop because of this new settlement. If it does, it's going to take years because fair market value is what it is. And that's where people are going to sell their home. They're not going to sell it as a discount because they don't have to pay another agent for it. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, shoot me a DM or a comment here and we can chat more. Thirdly, we all know that we're in a housing crisis. We all know that it's terribly hard to afford a house. And based on what I said, with the sellers, this isn't really going to make prices go down. If it does, it's going to take lots of years for there to become this new norm. But for the most part, prices are what they are. And now buyers who can't afford things in the first place are going to have to come up with money to pay their own agent. For some, that's not a big deal, but for a lot of people, as we know with the housing market, they can't afford it. And so to come up with that on top of what they have to pay for their down payment and their closing costs, it's going to be really hard. Now, the settlement is not saying buyer's agents won't ever be offered again. What it is saying is that somebody selling their house can't advertise that they are offering a seller's commission. So or a buyer's commission, sorry. So what's gonna happen is that sellers are then going to decide with their listing agent, is this something that I want to offer, is it not? And then if somebody becomes interested in the home, they're gonna call the seller's agent. It adds a whole other level of, them saying not only is the washer and dryer included, what reports do you have, etc. They're also going to be saying, are you offering commission to a buyer's agent? And then there's negotiations that's going to happen. I foresee that there's going to be lawsuits involved with, well, you offered this amount to this person and this amount to this person. I think you did that for fair housing issues. You were being discriminatory. I think it's going to open up a whole new can of worms that they weren't planning on. And when it comes down to it, a seller, I'm guessing, is going to want to work with a buyer's agent for the sale of their home, because there's so many complications that can have when you sell a home. There are easements that are happening. There are negotiations that need to happen. You don't want to work with a buyer that doesn't have those skills, that asks for unreasonable things, or ends up doing things to your property during escrow that you didn't want. And if they had the knowledge, if they knew contracts, if they knew the legalities behind things, they wouldn't have done it. So my opinion is sellers are still going to want to work with buyer's agents, and they're going to figure out a way, whether it's offline in some dark web somewhere where sellers agents are disclosing how much they're offering, or it's just going to be this added layer that's going to have to happen. And it's just going to get more complicated, unfortunately. It's become harder for buyers, whether they're having to come up with the money on their own, or there's negotiations with the seller's agent, which could lead to all these different things. And when it comes down to it, as a buyer, you want to have an advocate in your back pocket. You want to have somebody that's cheering for you, that knows the municipal codes, that knows what to do if you're in a flood zone, that knows what to do if there's issues that happen with the house that you don't know how to handle. You want somebody that has skills in negotiations, that can work on these things for you on your behalf. You have your job, you have your life, you have all these different things. Why not have somebody that has training and years of experience to have on your side that can advocate for you and help you make this a smooth, successful transaction? So if you are a buyer and you are kind of freaking out about this, please be in touch with me. We can always negotiate things. I have great negotiating skills and I would be happy to advocate for you. It is what I love about my job. So please, let's work together. We'll get you in the house that you want and everything will be smooth.